Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and Mac Lane podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and Mac Lane. If you are not watching on YouTube, first of all, what are you doing? You should be. But second of all, you would see Mac and I both wearing black. This was not on purpose at all. I just went to my closet and picked out this black shirt. Mac, same for you, I guess?
Yes. Yep. Just what I put on this morning.
If you're a Clemson fan, you may ask, are they in mourning? I think we all knew Clemson's season was pretty much over, like the ACC championship odds and all that, which Mac and I both picked Clemson to win the ACC, even though if you went back and look at our texts, you would see me wanting to pick Florida State with every fiber of my being and somehow not doing it. Anyway, we are, I guess, in mourning because Clemson's season is an absolute dumpster fire, but we'll get to that later, Mac. We're not starting with them because why would we do that? There are so many other more important games.
Oh, it's brutal, KG. I will say this, though. It's another crazy weekend in the ACC.
Yeah.
I mean, this season has
wild.
been so much fun, so wild. And it is comical that it takes the absolute brutality, the pain for my Tigers, your Tigers, for this to happen. But just as a whole, I mean, I look at the last 3 weeks that we've been on the road at Miami, overtime thriller. Then we're going and seeing what Miami did again to Clemson to get that going. Last night, 2 nights ago, Georgia Tech, the things that they were able to do, get the
Crazy.
big W. It's been nuts. I mean, every game that we go to is just absolutely crazy, and it's been a ton of fun so far.
And Mac, I want to say something too, just a quick behind the scenes and a thank you to the listeners and the viewers, because Mac and I are being honest. When Clemson lost to Duke opening weekend, I thought, because from the beginning, when we first started this channel, it was a lot of Clemson fans because people know us from Clemson. However, Clemson is having its worst season in a very, very long time. And our viewership and listenership has been amazing. Has been, I mean, so much better than last year. Last year was really good. This year it's been awesome. So we're just really thankful for that, Mac, and really humble. And we've got Florida State fans in here, Miami fans, North Carolina fans, Duke fans, Louisville fans, everybody. So I just wanted to say that. I just
That's
really
right. Big shout out. Big shout out to our people. We appreciate y'all on this journey. And it just, again, it's been fun in the quality of the league, to see some new faces, to see some people turn it around. My goodness. I mean, there were a couple teams I thought were just dead and gone. The water, it was over. Boston College, Virginia Tech, and those two teams, Virginia. I mean, Virginia is so close in every game. But I don't know if there's two hotter teams than BC and VT. I mean, those guys are rolling. Kind of found their quarterback, found what they're comfortable in, and they're really getting after it. I tell you where I'm comfortable, Kelly, is Ingles. Super comfortable there.
Indeed.
Know where I need to go. Know where the produce is. Know where the meat is. You want some drinks in between. Whatever you need. They got you covered. But we also have a massive basketball tournament coming up, the Asheville Championship. We've been talking about it for weeks. We had a massive episode that just dropped about Clemson basketball. They are playing in the tournament, as well as some other really heavy hitters. Go get your tickets. Check it out. Basketball in Asheville. There's so much to do up there. But real quick, before we jump into some football, let's hear this message from our friends over at Ingles. College basketball is kicking off with the Asheville Championship at the Harris Cherokee Center, Asheville, on November 10th and 12th, featuring my Clemson Tigers, Maryland, Davidson, and UAB. Tickets are on sale now at AshevilleChampionship.com. Save your spot, cheer on your team at the Asheville Championship, November 10th and 12th. Again, that's AshevilleChampionship.com. Get your tickets today.
Well, I love that we're running that commercial mainly because I love Ingles and I love the Asheville Championship, but a lot of Clemson fans are in fact on to basketball season. So go watch our Clemson basketball preview episode.
Are you telling me Clemson's a basketball school, KG? Is that what you're telling me?
I think it's possible. You know who's not a basketball school? NC State, according to Dave Doran. We'll get to that. Let's start with, this is actually a perfect transition. 2 schools known for their basketball.
Very true.
In a ranked matchup between Duke and Louisville. And Duke has dropped out of the top 25. And I think probably at this point makes sense. Number 18, Louisville beats number 20, Duke, 23-0. This was absolute domination. And Mac, I picked Duke. I still beat you this week, so I'm going to hang my hat on that because this was a terrible pick. And Louisville did to Duke what I said Duke needed to do to Louisville.
Yeah.
Louisville made this a possession game. They made this a ground and pound. They made it a physical in the trenches game. And in my defense, Jawar Jordan didn't look like he had hurt his hamstring at all.
No.
21 carries for 163 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was spectacular. And Louisville knew, look, we're just going to run the ball. I mean, they picked their moments to pass, but they rode Jawar Jordan all the way. And this Louisville defense pitching a shutout, Mac. That was really impressive.
It really was. And, to kind of start on the Louisville side, obviously a massive win. Super cool for those guys. The Triple J's were balling, 11 of 16 for Jack Plummer. Not super efficient in regards to amount of yards that he had, but, throwing the ball at a super high clip there. Got Jamari Thrash involved. But as you said, it was all about Jawar Jordan. I mean, a season high, career high, 163 yards, couple of tutties. Super explosive, physical running. He didn't have, his long was 23. He didn't have that 70-plus yard run that we've seen him do so many different times this year, but, just chopping away at that Duke defense and doing a really good job. And there was this one run where, he kind of got met at like the 3-yard line and was still keeping his feet running. Then all the offensive line just came.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Escorted him in there.
And Mac, did you hear Jawar giving credit to his line? I knew you loved it.
Of course. You got to love that. Love when the big guys up front do their thing. So that was great to see that offensively, really just taking what the defense gave them. I mean, Duke's pass defense is really good, one of the best in the country. So Louisville said, okay, let's go. We'll run it. We'll throw it when we need to, but we're going to run this ball and really control this game. And then, defensively, I thought that's exactly what Louisville would look like, because Duke is just so handcuffed right now. They literally are playing, it feels like, KG, with a hand behind their back. I mean, they have no passing threat at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the efficiency's there, the bad production, not only in yardage, but just completion percentage. I mean, they have been sub, like 40% for a handful of games, 3 games in a row now right here. And of course, that's attributed to Riley being hurt and just not being 100% himself. Now, he played pretty much the entire game. Thought he, looked good in spurts and was able to plan and explode, but just ultimately not enough and nowhere near healthy. And, I think that is just a little bit unfortunate because you have to think a little bit about the future and you have to think about what you're putting on tape right now is not good for the NFL draft. Like they're not putting that thing on and there's an asterisk that says, oh, Riley's ankle was hurt. Kudos that he played. What they're going to see is you went 9 for 21. And they're going to see that you weren't throwing the ball downfield.
I think there's a little bit of that. They understand he's not 100%.
I promise they don't care. They don't care. It's millions and millions of dollars. It's millions and millions.
Well, here's the Mac. I think we're at the point now where Riley Leonard is coming back,
which is good for us. It's great for us.
I mean, if you're playing, I get your point, and I remember you saying this multiple weeks ago after the Notre Dame game, and I said, Mac, we know Riley Leonard. You're not going to keep him off the field. If he can play, he's going to play. And you agreed, but you said you are putting some bad film out there, and I get that.
Yeah.
I think all of this means he's going to come back. That's what I'm assuming at this point.
Yeah, and we'll see. Who knows what happens. Graham Barton did not play in this game. I think they said a knee injury, which I didn't know that right until kickoff. And then I think
Monk went out.
Yeah, which is just not fun. I mean, this is not great. And unfortunately, this is what we see kind of happen with Duke. Once they get really in the bulk of their schedule, it's just the depth thing, wear and tear, and guys, not being able to fully go. So still no question, a very good football team. It's just, it's virtually impossible, KG, when you are having to be one-dimensional. Everyone knows you're one-dimensional. Louisville just loaded up the box and said, let's go. Whatever you want to do, we'll be just fine and play whatever game that you want. So Louisville defense, again, great, unbelievable job. Held Duke to 51 rushing yards. Nobody's even come close to doing that all season long. And this Cardinal team, I mean, we had kind of this discussion on the huddle, and when you're talking about the second place team, I think Louisville is a relative lock now, for that. I think we're going to see the Cards and FSU playing in the ACC championship game.
And hopefully, for the sake of the ACC, Louisville wins out. They do have Kentucky, which won't count against them for the ACC title, but their stretch is looking more difficult because they have Virginia Tech at home, who is looking a lot better. We're going to talk about them. They have Virginia at home, which is not a cupcake. And then they go to Miami.
Yeah.
So it's looking more challenging, but I agree. It's definitely theirs to lose. Mac, when we talk, we don't have time to get into this today because we have so many games to get to. We'll talk about this at a later date. I don't know who the ACC player of the year is right now, but
Hmm.
I know who the most valuable player is to his team. And I
Talk to
think
me.
that's Jawar Jordan.
Talk to me. Come on.
He is the most I mean, they couldn't do anything against Pittsburgh when he was hurt.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, they don't lose.
Yeah.
I really don't think so.
Yeah. Well, it's
So
super interesting. I 1000% agree with you. But then just away from home, they're just a different team. I mean,
that's
Louisville
true. That's
and
a good point.
I mean,
It's a good point.
you're talking about that
The
schedule, and
NC
you're
State
looking at,
game.
thank goodness, Virginia Tech at home, Virginia at home, Kentucky
Right.
at home.
That's good
I'm
for
just going
them.
to say this. Don't be mad at me if you want to. Miami ain't packing that thing out. So it's not like it's this crazy, unbelievable, 100% capacity crowd that you're going to have to deal with there. But still, that's the only road game left. How can you channel
Yeah.
it? How can you put all the marbles in and say, gosh, dang it, we're going to be the same team when we take this show on the road? But I think that's very important to look at. Again, I totally agree with you. Schedule getting more difficult by the day, but super important. 3 of the 4 are at home for the Cards.
If Jawar Jordan is playing, I feel good. I feel good about Louisville at this point. And let's say, shout out Louisville fans. I feel like the Louisville fans are really showing up for this new team and this new coaching staff. Mac, let's talk about Florida State. They continue to roll. They are 8-0 now. Number 4, Florida State beats Wake Forest 41-16. And it was an absolute beatdown, really. When Wake Forest, Mitch Griffiths played, he was kind of, I think Clawson was kind of faking us out there, if you will. But Florida State dominated. Trey Benson had himself a day, 508 total yards for FSU. No turnovers. They just they did what they do. And this was not a trap game. We told you it's not a trap game. And I'm not saying I'm a genius because I was saying, Pitt might be a trap game. There's no way now that Pitt's a trap game. I'm sorry. It's just not. So Florida
that's
State
where they're most dangerous, right there.
It's not a trap game.
I hope not.
We'll get to Pittsburgh, sadly. But I mean, there's not much to say about the game. Florida State looked really good, and they do have Miami and Florida left, but I'm not worried about Pittsburgh.
Starting, defensively, they look fantastic. I mean, they just absolutely took these guys' will away. I mean, everything that they wanted, they were able to do it defensively. 82 yards passing. I mean, that's really impressive by that defense to be able to put on that type of pressure. 50% completion rate. Did run the ball for 128 yards, but I think got sacked in there a couple of different times as well. Jared Verse, I saw him in the backfield all day long. So it's nice to see him statistically kind of catching up to where people thought he would be this year. And then just offensively, I mean, Jordan Travis, that's my player of the year. And he's ascending. I mean, he's getting so much better, KG, each and every week. And now the stats starting to catch up. That was kind of one thing that I wasn't disappointed isn't the right word, but I did expect him to jump off quick, and have these really gaudy statistical games in September. And that just, it happened at first and then it kind of died down. And now he's ripping it back up. I mean, to be, over, what was he was close to 400 total yards, 4 total touchdowns. I mean, this guy was super efficient throwing the football. Keon Coleman, I mean, just a freak of nature, the things that he can do. That guy flashes and makes some really incredible plays. And then, of course, like you said, Trey Benson. I thought this was pretty close to their most complete game. You probably would have liked to see a little bit,
good point.
More points. And, I mean, they got, blanked in the third quarter. I would have liked to see them come out firing. But I think this was their most complete game that they played, which is a good thing because I've said it 100 times. You want to be playing great in November. You want to be ascending in November, and that's exactly where the Noles are. So when you look at their kind of path ahead and what they have left at Pittsburgh, which cold front's coming through, it's going to be cold in Pitt. It's going to be a weird game. They're going to have to figure it out.
I'm not worried.
And then Miami. You go down there, and that's an absolute war. Throw everything out of it. Then you have the fighting powerhouse of North Alabama. Then you go to Florida. So really great opportunities here for Jordan Travis to get square in that Heisman race, get to New York, and, man, go ahead and just win it. He keeps playing at the level that he has. I think this race is wide open. I think that there is no true favor right now. And if you think that, it'll probably change next week.
Well, I was watching a Heisman show that just came on the other day on ESPN, and I think 2 of the analysts had JJ McCarthy from Michigan as their favorite. And I was like, what?
Somebody gonna steal that away from him. Somebody gonna get that from him.
Yeah, does the sign guy come with him? I love your point about JT and the stats, though, because this is where he needs to make that push.
Yeah.
And I think he is going to do that. The Florida State-Miami game is at Doak Campbell, by the way. I think you may have said Miami, but that's not. Florida State fans will correct us. We know that's big. I think that's a big differentiator there. And I just love about JT, 18 touchdowns this year, 2 picks.
Mm-hmm.
He is not going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
He is a vet in that regard. And on the flip side, Mac, Wake Forest just not that they really made mistakes. This wasn't a terrible turnover game for them,
Right.
which has been the issue in the past, but it was more just FSU blowing up that slow mesh, hang and bang, pace and space, throw and catch, whatever you want to call it.
And 6
It
sacks.
wasn't really
that's not fun. That's not fun. It kind of takes everything out of it.
Yeah, it was not working. Mac, let's roll here as we continue. And let's get to the game from Thursday night that we need to give a little time here. We need to give a little love to Virginia Tech, who is now streaking, if you will. They beat Syracuse 38-10. They absolutely dominate them, Mac. When you look at Syracuse's numbers in this game, I think this answers the question that we had from the listener of, is Syracuse a good team that had a bad stretch or a bad team? I think bad team is kind of where we are right now, 137 total yards. But give credit to Virginia Tech in that defense, 528 total yards if you're the Hokies. Kyron Drones looks great. I'm happy for Virginia Tech. I'm happy for their fans because they deserve it. No,
I don't think there's any doubt about it. And they've got a massive game this weekend, 3:30 ACC Network. The Cards and Virginia Tech square off. That's going to be massive. I cannot wait to see that in a battle elimination game almost for ACC championship. So that's going to be a lot of fun there. But as you said, Syracuse just struggling. I mean, the injuries are stacking up really, really quick for these guys, playmakers. And quite frankly, in that second half, I mean, it was just like a lack of want to and really just a defeated, which I understand. I mean, the game was brutal. It was hard. When you have all these sacks, tackles for loss, I mean, that defense was feasting. 8 sacks in the backfield all night, scored, got a safety. Just really, really difficult, to go against and stepping up at the right time. And I think when you look at a guy like APR, defensive end, who is just feasting right now, really doing a good job. He has brought up the morale, the excitement level, the production of this defense in an absolute hurry, and just got everyone excited. So that's been really fun to see, kind of get Virginia Tech, Blacksburg back to Saxburg as it belongs, in that defense to be really scary. And Lane was rocking it as always. But also the growth from Kyron Drones. I mean, we have seen him emerge into an absolute leader, very efficient throwing the football, running it as well. He just, KG, he looks so comfortable in that game. I mean, he was doing these hesitation basketball moves out there on guys. And I was just like, wow, this dude is special, and he's really fun to watch. So really excited to see how they can continue to progress. They ran the ball 53 times for 318 yards. I mean, that's just gross.
Domination.
It's just gross to be able to do that. So big shout out to the Hokies. Big shout out to Eddie Royal, because these guys are making some freaking noise. I mean, I love to see it.
They are. They're so improved. It's hard to believe they're still only 4-4.
I know.
I had to double check that for a second. They're just only 4-4.
Crazy.
So they've got to handle their business down the stretch. And as we said last week on our mailbag episode, it does worry me that Virginia Tech only has one home game left because they are so good at Lane Stadium. So you've got to beat BC on the road. You've got to beat Virginia on the road.
Tough.
Louisville, we'll see. But not trying to take anything away from the absolute steps in the right direction that Virginia Tech is making, without a doubt.
No question.
Mac, let's continue here. North Carolina.
Oh, no.
Again, we had another question on our mailbag. Will Drake May and the Tar Heels be able to bounce back? The answer is no to our friend that answered that, asked that question. I thought they would. When you look at how this game went, UNC goes up 14-0. I'm thinking, all right, because I was taking Georgia Tech, changed it to UNC because I thought Vegas wanted me to take Georgia Tech. You know how that goes. And then not only they let Georgia Tech back in, sure, but then they go up 35-24. Right. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, they're probably going to figure this out. Georgia Tech would not quit, Matt. They absolutely would not quit. I was impressed.
It was crazy. I mean, if you look at just the box score alone, and kind of see the scoring differential here. Georgia Tech scored 24 points in the second quarter and then 22 points in the fourth quarter.
I just noticed that. That's crazy.
It was a game of runs. It was like basketball.
Yes.
It
was
was
a basketball
absolutely
game.
bizarre. And let me ask you this, KG. How many rushing – because, again, I know you're watching. You got a bunch of different things. How many rushing yards do you think Georgia Tech had in the fourth quarter alone? They had a total of 348 total. How many do you think they had in the fourth quarter?
Well, they had that big chunk run. It's like 75 yards. So you add that in. Haynes King was just – I mean, he had where he kept it, and the camera lost him. I know you were there. The camera lost Haynes King, which was wild. I'll say they had like 200 in the fourth
240 plus yards in the fourth quarter.
That's crazy.
Great guess, by the way.
That's unreal.
Unbelievable. I mean, it was a total meltdown for UNC. Yeah. I mean, it was absolutely brutal. Because like you said, that first quarter – first play, they're handing off Marion Hampton.
I'm thinking, we're good.
Moving the ball, walk in the end zone. And again, if you told me this stat line, Marion Hampton, 29 rushes, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns, UNC wins the game. I don't need to hear anything else. Those guys win the football game, and they just couldn't. I mean, this team is 1,000% referring back to who they were last year, where there's no support for the offense. The defense cannot do anything to help them at all. And it's a shame because we saw the flashes. We've seen the bodies. We've seen them do it. And then it just falls apart. And you have to give Georgia Tech a ton of credit, right? Like, I mean, Haynes King is a fun player to watch. This team stepped up immensely around him. He had 350, 60 total yards of offense, 4 total touchdowns. I mean, it truly goes to show you, KG, how important that position is. You get a quarterback, you are fine. You will be okay. You will be in every game. And that's exactly what Georgia Tech has found, and that's exactly where they are.
Yeah, for sure. Eric Singleton as well. Let's give him some credit.
Finally, I think this was his first game back, and he's a speedy guy, man. They got him involved early and often.
Yeah, he was really, really good. Haynes King is dynamic. He's really dynamic. Yeah. And we said that the Louisville game, he looked really good. He made some mistakes, and did have one pick, but when they needed him, he did not. Yeah. And you also bring up the weird stuff we talked about on Friday. North Carolina just can't win there.
It's bizarre.
Honestly, they can't beat Georgia Tech, period. No. But then when the game's in Atlanta, they just can't win there. And to me, Mac, the last 2 UNC games, Virginia and Georgia Tech, I felt like UNC thought the other team would just quit at some point. Like when UNC went back up 35-24, it's a wrap. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Virginia. Felt like Virginia's going to they'll just go away at some point. And that did not happen in either of those games. Yeah. And Georgia Tech, if you just hadn't lost to freaking Bowling Green, then we'd be in a lot better position right now, Georgia Tech.
That's crazy.
But still, you can't take away what they've done, beating Miami and beating North Carolina.
I know. And just such a shout out to Coach Key. I mean, I love that dude so much. So fun talking with him, how passionate he is. I mean, how much he loves Georgia Tech. Obviously, being an alum there, being a former captain. It's so cool to see that because those guys just value it so much. When they're at their universities, and he was able to give the game ball to the offensive line. They earned it, 350 rushing yards, and he got super emotional about that, which was cool to see. But just at the end when we were talking to him, and just Georgia Tech oozing out of him, and just really challenging his guys, saying, "Hey, look, we got this big victory, and then we just give it away the next week. We have got to harness this and build on this and really get it going." And I just love that dude. I think he's perfect for Georgia Tech. I think he understands all of the good and bad that come with that, or I would say kind of, things to deal with. It's not necessarily bad. It's just different. It's challenging than other universities and institutions. So he's the guy, man. And it's super fun to see and just a great game, constant fight from those guys, and ultimately got the dub. So huge shout out to Georgia Tech.
I agree. I think he is the right guy for this team. And we saw a little bit of it last year when he rallied the troops and they beat some ranked teams. Mac, I was watching on TV and I feel like I couldn't get the full gist of the atmosphere. How many people were there? What was your assessment of that?
It was pretty good. I don't know, from like a number standpoint, percentage wise, maybe 60, 75% full, which, you'd love to see that maybe a little bit more and jump up there. Maybe closer to the 60, percent full there. But they were loud. I mean, they were jacked up. And there's actually a really cool picture. I'm going to be sharing it on social media here in a bit, where they stormed the field. I mean, it was packed.
I saw.
It was packed. The whole field was loaded up. And that was cool, too. I'm glad you brought that back up, because the excitement, the just pure joy, seeing people screaming, going crazy on that field. And our set, I mean, we're right there. That had never happened to us before. Getting the field rush while you're doing TV.
You've never been stormed.
At Clemson every other game, but when we're at home. But not on TV. So that was cool just to see it. And our crew did such a good job just staying live with it. All the different shots. We were just talking and walking around. We weren't even like standing in front of the camera. So that was really cool to be a part of that and to see that. So I hope that games like that, because that's the first time they've done it at home under Coach Key, at least get a ranked win.
Right.
They'd always done those on the road. So now that those guys finally got to see it, I just hope that city can continue to embrace it. It's tough, man. These pro towns, there's just so much to do that is a little bit difficult. But I hope people can continue to buy in and show up for Coach Key and the boys.
What Georgia Tech has done this year is gone loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win.
Keep doing that scheduling for me. Who do they beat? Who do they beat the rest of the year?
That means they lose to Virginia.
Could happen.
They beat Clemson.
Very easily
Wouldn't
happen.
be crazy.
Wouldn't be a shock.
They lose to Syracuse and they beat Georgia.
I think if you flip the last two, you got it good. You got it figured out.
Georgia Tech still needs. Where are they at? With they're 4-4 now.
Just need two.
They would be 5-3.
Just need two.
They've beaten Bowling Green.
But I feel good about them going bowling. See. I mean, I think
I do
of
too.
These last four, I feel good about it.
Yeah.
I promise you it's not the last one, though. I promise you that.
Well,
crazy
Mac,
things happen.
Look, this team's playing with a lot of belief at this point.
And you got a quarterback. You got a quarterback that can move around.
You do.
You're in every game.
You do. That would be the most college football thing ever. Yes. To lose to Bowling Green and beat Georgia.
Yeah, amazing.
God,
I hope it happens.
That would be amazing. That would be just college football at its finest.
And that game is at Georgia Tech. We could have, some ACC network primetime there. Just saying, just throwing it out there. We could be there.
I'm pretty sure Georgia will be on a different channel, but I would hope so. That'd be really fun. We'll see, Mac. Well, I know that Clemson, South Carolina is at South Carolina, but
that's right.
if
SEC
you
network.
Start working for like Nickelodeon or something, it might be there. So let's talk about Clemson. Let's get to it, Mac. NC State beats Clemson 24-17. At one point, it was up 24-7. The fact that Clemson even came back and made it this close was interesting. Cade Klubnik has to throw the ball 50 times. There's absolutely no run game for Clemson. Will Shipley does get hurt. That was a big blow to the Tigers, no doubt. You throw the ball 50 times and you still don't have a 100-yard receiver. I think that's pretty telling. You had turnovers come back to bite you again. 2 bad picks from Cade. And I would say, Mac, the 2 best players on the field were Peyton Wilson and Casey Concepcion. Yep. I think those were the 2 best players on the field. But still, when you look at the box score, NC State shouldn't have won. I mean, that's the story of every Clemson game this year, basically. Right. But they just killed themselves again.
Yeah, it's been very bizarre, to look at these Tigers. And, I think that this was the first game plan, box score, whatever you want to look at it. And I thought I was watching the Tennessee game. It was so weird. It was so weird. Where Cade's just throwing it so much. Nothing's happening, not down the field. It's not like a bunch of shots were had. Not getting the.
But you couldn't get a push.
No, you couldn't.
I mean, you just couldn't run it.
Against a 3-man front, which is normally the easier thing to run. And you have angles and things like that. The fact that Tyler Brown had 6 yards, I think, is criminal. He's your best receiver.
Well, he did get hurt.
Oh, he did.
He did go out for a little bit.
Thank you for updating.
He went out for a little bit, but he came back in. Yeah. So there was that.
So it's just.
I know you're watching a million games.
Yeah, we had like 4 games on at that point. That was brutal. But it's just tough for these guys. And I think the thing that, stands out the most to me, really 2 things, KG, that I think you can really box up, Clemson's lack thereof success. And, obviously you look at the turnovers, but what happens right after the turnovers? Teams score.
Right.
These guys are like top 5 in points allowed off of turnovers, which is not good. And sometimes it's scoring off the turnovers that play, like a pick six or a fumble six or whatever.
Right. But
From that
sometimes, Mac,
standpoint,
you played for the defense. When how deflating is it? Oh
yeah,
God, another crazy
oh, yeah,
pick. Oh God, another fumble on the
right,
1 yard line. Like, what are you supposed to
yeah.
do at that
Yeah,
point?
no, it's tough. It's tough. You'd love for them to have your back, especially how good they are. I mean, they're top 15 defensively, maybe even
Right.
top 10 in a lot of categories. So you would love to see them just a little bit more, right? Just help them out just a little bit more. But I think even the more telling stat, KG, is the fact that Clemson is like 117-4 under Dabo Sweeney when they outgain opponents by 100 or more yards. 3 of those 4 losses have happened in the last 12 months. And so what does that mean?
That's
Clemson hurting
crazy.
itself. Clemson can't get out of its own way. Penalties,
Mhm.
sacks, turnovers, just can't get it done. And Coach Dabo Sweeney last night, Sunday night, was having a press conference or whatever and just saying, we're just not good enough. We're not doing good enough coaching. We're not doing good enough players. We're not doing anything good enough. And I think that's
Mhm.
clearly where they are. And you see how it's translating to a team that can move the ball. I won't really say it will, but can move the ball, but can't finish,
Yeah.
can't get in there. And so it's really tough. Offensive line play was bad. I mean, that was probably the worst that we've seen it all year. Again, you had guys playing out of position. You had guys trying new things. Clemson trying to be creative, and it's just not working. I mean, that second half, a bunch of times, and probably you could say the whole game, but a lot of times, KG, NC State's bringing 3, and they're
Mhm.
getting there. They're causing Cade to move. They're causing him to roll
And
left.
what is Cade supposed to
Right.
do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just
It's a
nothing.
lot of
Can't do anything.
stress on
Can't
him.
do anything. So, and then even that sack fumble, I don't know what that was. I mean, it was
Mhm.
just a free defensive end rusher and just kills him. I mean, it was just horrible. It looked like a slide
Yeah.
protection where I don't know if Cade was supposed to roll harder and that guy's just eliminated because there's no chance he can get there. I'm not sure if the backside tackle was supposed to stay home and have kind of what we call waterfall, where he has anything coming off the edge, or if the running back was supposed to chip. And that's probably, individually from my perspective, that's probably the most frustrating thing, is just because I know what it could be, but I don't know what it was. I don't know what was called. And so it's
Mhm.
hard, again, especially for my school, without assuming what it is, that I don't know. I don't know what the problem was. I
Yeah.
just know there was a problem. I know there was something that wasn't right. And, that's super frustrating. And I know a lot of Clemson fans are frustrated, and it's just a really tough spot right now. So you hope this team can continue to grow. You hope they kind of make a decision, because Notre Dame is coming to town this week, and they just embarrassed Pitt. And I know we're about to talk about this here in a second, but that can easily be Clemson home. I've been a part of one of those games, and we were a top 10, we were top 5, and that happened to us. So
Yeah. It was a little
it can get out
different.
of hand in a hurry.
I want to ask you about Clemson's bowl chances, but I tweeted that perhaps you need a season like this for some changes to occur because, and this is not necessarily like, I get it. When you win 10 games,
Yeah,
even if the fans are frustrated, it's hard to say, I got to go get rid of this guy. I got to change what I do. I've got to have a true reckoning, look in the mirror situation. You just won 10 games. Even if the fans are frustrated, you won 10 games. Or last year, you won the ACC, you know? But if Clemson goes 6-6, if they don't make a bowl game, which I think is possible, which is crazy, maybe that's what truly causes some real overhaul in this
yeah.
program. Are you buying that, Mac?
Well, I definitely think if you don't make a bowl game, then yeah.
But even if you do, even if you go 6-6,
I'm just saying, if that happens, I'm virtually
that's not the
guaranteeing it. I'm
standard.
virtually guaranteeing it. If not, I mean, I still think there should be things. I just don't know what. And that'll be, I was about to say fun. It will not be fun. That will be a really interesting conversation, for us kind of postseason, once it's kind of all settled, and where this team does end up and what we kind of think should kind of happen there. Because I think it's easy to sit here and say you have to go to the portal. But I just know him. I just know the case. There's going to have to be people that leave. There's going to have to be numbers. He's not.
Which there
I hope.
are.
I
He
don't
does
hope.
have
I just
people
said I hope.
transfer.
I don't hope that happens. But I do hope that Clemson utilizes every resource that they can to be competitive and to be great and to fight.
Yeah.
I think it. I don't. How about this? I don't think there's a position that you don't get somebody in, because I think you need competitive depth at every single position that you have. I don't think anybody is
Yeah.
at a level that you think they're irreplaceable.
But will he do it? And here's the other thing too about Dabo. Mac, you know him better than anybody. He may want to do things his way, but he is also one of the most competitive people. He wants to
Yeah.
win. Like he is not. You don't get to where he's gotten to by being okay with
Right.
losing. So
Right.
I think that there are a lot of things probably already happening, wheels turning.
And now you're right. I
needs
mean,
to
everything
change.
you said about the 10 wins. Listen, he was winning his way. He was still winning ACC championships his way, and now
But not
that
anymore.
is coming to a halt. Those wins are being taken away, and it will be fascinating. This offseason will be one way or the other. Whether he does make changes or he doesn't, it will be very intriguing and something for us to talk about. All offseason long.
And Mac, let's give some credit to NC State. I know that the numbers weren't exceptional, but they still found a way. They didn't make mistakes. They didn't turn the ball over. Peyton Wilson was an absolute monster. That defense played really well.
They did.
And then you had Concepcion being a star. And Wolfpack Nation showed up. That place looked really loud on TV, and it looked packed.
I was very grateful it wasn't a night game, because it probably would have been worse. Probably would have been way worse.
Yeah,
they
probably
were pumping.
so.
And I can't wait. We're going there this week. Cannot wait. Always love going to Raleigh. The Canes are going to meet us there. And so that's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere, especially coming off this Clemson win. 5-3 feels way better than 4-4. I tell you that. And Raleigh's going to be bumping. Can't wait to see that at night. And yeah, you said it. That defense. I mean, Jalen Scott, freaky. He had a heck of a game. Peyton Wilson, who did get hurt. I can't remember when he got hurt, but he didn't come back in the game, I don't think. So hopefully he'll be fine and heal up. But he is such a monster. I mean, the plays that he can make in the backfield, getting after the quarterback, taking a pick six to the house, just freaky athleticism. So excited to continue to see him. And then, KC Concepcion. I mean, that guy is a beast. And, Coach and I did a great job of finding him, like getting him the ball,
get him the ball,
play design, formation design, concepts, motions. I mean, there was the one touchdown that it might have been the first touchdown where he's off to the left, the top of your screen by himself. He motions across the formation into kind of a 3-by look, which those guys just create this natural rub. Some people like to call it other things, but that's what it was. And he was wide open. I mean, there was nothing the defense could do. It's a brutal, really, really beautiful play design. And, we for this first game ever, and again, it was 200 yards. It wasn't this crazy output. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But we saw some really nice design and some really nice play calling. You just hope they can build on that. You hope MJ can continue to be comfortable through 2 touchdowns, but just still need more. Need more from them. And that was a great defense. Like Clemson's defense is electric.
True.
But it's going to be fun Saturday night to see them and the Canes.
What did you think of them bringing Brennan Armstrong in for a few different running packages?
I was like, why are we doing this?
Honestly, I kind of like it because it's something else that the other team has to prepare for.
Yeah, 5 yards.
And he can throw
5 yards. I just don't know.
I think it was more they were planting some seeds where you have to prepare for it.
They put Kevin Concepcion in the background. KC's back there. He had 51. So just get him the ball. Everybody get out of the way. Yeah. Give him the ball.
True. Get him the football. Exactly. 100%. Okay, speaking of Miami survives. This game was Virginia almost did it again. They definitely covered. Thank you, Who's. Miami beats Virginia 29-26 in overtime. I think the main story with this is just Virginia continuing to be competitive and getting very close. But Miami's defense, wow. 6 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. The big pick six by Cam Kitchens was huge. TVD, I don't know, looked rusty maybe coming off the injury, but Miami's defense is the truth. And I mean, in many ways, they won that game for Miami.
No, they definitely did. And what's weird though is like they had these. They were very productive, but at times just gave up these bursts and gave up these chunky runs and just things that I didn't think would happen. In the game, I really thought that they'd be able to stand up, and it's very similar, to North Carolina, but obviously they still won. If you show me these defensive stats, 6 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, score on defense, I think they air Virginia
You think
out.
blowout?
I think it's an absolute blowout. But Virginia found a way. I mean, these guys are fighting their tails off. They are so close. And it's a very nice team collective effort every time that we see it from these guys. And really since, Musket has been back, I only have to think of
Right.
if he was healthy the
If
whole
he had been
time,
healthy.
what if? How different would this season be for these guys? Would they be able to potentially be fighting for bowl eligibility?
Mac, they still are fighting for bowl
It's not out of
eligibility.
reach. It's not out of reach.
Technically.
I'll say not out of reach.
If they beat Georgia Tech,
Not out of
Louisville,
question.
Duke, and Virginia Tech.
But yeah, like I said.
It's possible.
Like I said, we'll see. But I think certain growth and the way that they've looked has been super impressive. So that's great to see, and it's fun to see. And again, Mike Hollins, the things that he's doing, scored a couple of tutties, 50 yards.
Unreal.
Super, super amazing to see that. But then the young core from Miami is so impressive to me, KG. I mean, you look at right tackle, Francis Maui-Noah has been a freak all year long. You look at the other side, Ruben Bain. I mean, he's going to be a top 5 pick, top 10 pick when he's all said and done. I mean, that's a passionate dude, loves Miami. I hope we get to talk to him in a couple of weeks on the pod because he seems like one of those guys that you can just build the foundation. He can be that block, that rock for you and really get going. And then insert Mark Fletcher to the party, a guy who I remember watching back at the summer camp and just being like, who the heck is this? 6'3", 230-pound running back. Like, who is that guy? And just an absolute dog, has a walk-off touchdown to end the game in overtime. So I'm very impressed and excited, quite frankly, about the future of Miami with the pieces that they have, with the intentionality, the aggressiveness of their coaching staff to recruit whoever, whenever to get better. That they're going to make sure that Miami is back and very competitive. And, I definitely love the steps that they're taking.
And they're finding ways to win, right?
Yep.
They're learning, it seems, how to win. And they're establishing that culture of we're going to find a way to win. That's huge. All right, we are running long, so let's roll through these next 2 games. Boston College, UConn. Speaking of finding a way to win, BC didn't play their best game they've ever played. Castellanos went out for a little bit, but came back, so he seems to be okay. They survive. This game was a little close for comfort. UConn scored that touchdown in the 4th quarter to not allow us to have the cover that we wanted, even though it was 14.5, I think, so that was an issue. But they found a way. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
You did it, BC. And you're 1 win away from bowl eligibility when we thought you might go.
Thought it was over. Thought it was all over. I would have liked them to put just the hammer down a little bit right here, but is what it is.
Mac, you can't always get what you want. You know, a win's a win.
I'm crying for nothing. No one wants to hear my tears over here. Running the ball super effective. I mean, they ran it 54 times.
Yes.
I mean, that's just do what you got to do. Great job by the defense standing tall, not allowing them to do a bunch. And yeah, I mean, you're moving on. BC looking forward to who they have the rest of the year. Virginia Tech coming up after the bye week here, and then Pittsburgh. This weekend. When do they play? That is next weekend. They have a bye. They're on a bye this week. They don't play anybody. And then Virginia Tech at Pitt versus Miami. So this will be great, to get them going and get them really rolling here. So excited to see how can the Eagles finish and really get this thing firing up. They're at Syracuse. That's
they play
what I'm
Friday.
At. I was like, what am I seeing here? That's so weird. They play at Syracuse.
They play Friday.
So that's where the bowl eligibility comes to play.
On a Friday night.
I'm excited for that.
And Syracuse favored early. That's interesting to me.
Bet the house, baby. Load it up.
That is interesting.
I wonder about the Castellanos injury, if that's a bigger deal. He came back and played, though. He played, didn't he?
He came back. The game. He came back, but we'll keep an eye on that. And I'm sure that people will tell us nothing.
That's fascinating.
Jawar Jordan still hurt. He didn't practice. Okay. But BC. Shout out BC. Okay. Last game, Mac, and this game is so sad. I'm not trying to be a troll, but like Pitt did not cover.
Oh, wait, really? Wait, Pitt didn't cover? Wait, no, that's not true, right? It was 52.5, not 51.
It was 52.5. Oh, Lord. Notre Dame beats Pitt 58-7. And Pat Narduzzi tweets that he thought he was getting, not tweets, he said in a press conference, he thought he was getting some guys to replace the guys he lost that were good, and it turns out he wasn't. That kind of sums it all up, honestly.
Can I just prove that? Can I just say this, KG?
Yeah.
Stat sheets in college football and how crazy it is. Are you ready for this? Sam Hartman, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Who wins the game?
Yeah.
Who wins the game?
Yeah. Still not Pitt in my mind because they're that bad. So I wouldn't have taken Pitt.
They cover. No touchdowns?
Yeah, maybe they covered.
Oh, but you didn't see 4 interceptions the other way. Oh, whoops. Forgot about those.
When you had a punt return, you had,
the punt return. I mean, embarrassing. Like 7 people wrapped this Chris Tyree up at one point and just get stepped on for the house, for a cribbo. 4 picks. I mean, the picks were horrible. There's one pick where our ESPN, the way it tracks, like it tells you like who's in the area. So it was like, there targets so-and-so interception. On one of them, it doesn't say anything. So it was such a bad pass that no one's in the area except for Notre Dame.
No target was blocked.
There's no target in the area. It was a misfire. Unreal.
Oh, no.
I mean, just how these guys are playing, it's just bad. It's just not good football. I don't know where the locker room's going to be, after Coach said what he said.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope and think he doesn't mean it the way it came out.
Well, he finished the quote by saying, "But it's all on me. I take full responsibility."
Which maybe he realized what he was saying and was like, "Oh, I got to correct this."
But here's the thing, Mac. That's part of why the portal can be very dangerous. Oh, yeah. Because you think, and kind of what he was alluding to is we thought we were replacing those guys, either with guys we already had or with the portal. And we thought they'd be better. Maybe he's referring to Djokovic. I don't know. And they weren't.
No, it's brutal.
And you just don't know.
Horrible game, though. Embarrassing game. Somehow those guys beat Louisville, which is awesome. Go ACC.
Yeah. Again, Pitt beat Louisville. Louisville beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame beats Pitt. Here we are.
Sense.
We love it.
Makes no sense. Anyway, there's a little bit of news happening. I don't know if you guys saw this, but later tonight, the schedules will be unveiled for the next 1 million years in the ACC. Just kidding. It's only the next 7. How many of those games will actually be played? That'll be interesting to talk about. But I like the model.
That is not for us
We've
to
heard,
know.
Yeah, not for us to know or maybe even talk about, actually. I might get in trouble for saying that. It's going to be interesting. I've heard some fun things. Can't wait to unveil it. And then we might have a little sneak peek for you guys, too, after the fact and give you kind of our analysis here. Be on the lookout for that. Of course, a great episode on Wednesday. Big guest. Cannot wait to really just talk about all these games. And then Friday, I'm going to be better. KG, can you give us our records real quick? How do we do this weekend? Because I know I did not do
Mac,
good.
You're still doing really well, though, overall. You went 3-4. I went 4-3. So I picked up a game.
Not that bad.
Still 3 games back. You are 38-27 against the spread, which is very good.
You.
I am 35-30, which is respectable.
There you go. I think my man EJ went 6-1 this week. I think he really had a big one.
That's very good.
We'll see. I'll report back on that, but I think he balled out.
That's very good.
Took some risk. I thought I was going to blow him out of the water. Now he might have caught me and surpassed me, which is just embarrassing.
You did take some risks. I feel like you tried to take some risks.
It's how you make money. It's also how you lose money very quickly.
Risk it for the biscuit.
Anyway, that's it from us, guys. Big week, another big week, and just fun, meaningful football in the ACC. We got a huge weekend coming up, and then a bigger one after that, I might say. So excited for it. Cannot wait. Big shout out to Ingles. Cannot do this without them. Very appreciative for those guys. And we need some help from you. Come over to this party. See the all-black attire, the funeral. We're here. We're dressed. We're ready over on YouTube. Subscribe. Leave some comments. We always appreciate you guys going back and forth with us on there. And, of course, the OGs over on Apple Podcasts. Rate, review, subscribe as well. We greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.